Today we're going to be working on replacing this hood latch on my Honda Odyssey. But before we do that, let me talk to you a little bit of the symptoms that the vehicle was having and why am I doing this. So here's a little bit of the backstory. The vehicle, every time I would lock it and I would set the alarm, randomly the vehicle would start honking. It would do this at different parts of the day, sometimes at night, sometimes in the morning. It was just random. It would make it seem like someone was trying to break in, but there would be no one there. So I decided to hook up the scan tool and try to figure out what was going on to see if there was a switch that was open. Okay, so I have a scan tool connected to the vehicle, and this is the MaxiCom 808. And I'm gonna go ahead and connect to it and retrieve some of the information that we need to be able to diagnose the vehicle. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and enter the security module. So this is so I could go ahead and retrieve some data and see all the triggers, all the switches. There's switches for the door, for the hood, for the trunk lid. So right now you can see there's a driver door switch, and if I open the door, you can see it triggers on. And if I close the door, it triggers off. I could do the same thing with the lock and unlock button. So let's see here. You can see that this switch right here, it's going to switch on and off. You can see them, they're moving, and that means that there's a command being issued. So there are so many different triggers that the alarm system is looking at. All these things work together. Now you can see that there's one for the tailgate switch. And if I find it in here, there's one for the hood. And right here, this is the one for the hood. And right now it's showing that it's off. And that's because the hood is closed. If I was to open that, I'm gonna go ahead and pop the hood. You can see that the switch has turned on. And now I'm gonna step out of the vehicle and close it. And you can see it has switched off. Now, none of this data is any good unless we know which one triggered the alarm. And that's something that you're gonna run into. You're gonna find that your car is setting the alarm, it's going off, and you need to figure out which one of these switches is causing the problem. Sometimes the problem is right in front of your face and you can see that, hey, there's one that's staying on no matter what. But sometimes you're going to have an intermittent problem, and that's what I was having. So there is a way in how you could see the history of what was triggered, and we're going to go ahead and access that information right now. Now, depending on the scan tool that you're using, in order to access this information, it's going to be labeled differently. In the launch scan tool, it's going to say check instead of special functions, but we're going to go into the special functions right here. And you can see that we have history data and we have history clear. We don't want to clear it. We want to view the history. Now, this history here is going to show you the trigger. Depending on the scan tool that you're using, it shows you the last 3 triggers. So with the Autel, it's only showing us the last one. So you can see here that none of these trigger the alarm except for the hood security switch, and it shows that it was detected. So in order to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to clear the data, show you that there is nothing coming up here, that there was no trigger, and then I'm going to trigger the hood and show you what that would look like. So right now I'm going to go ahead and clear the history. So it's erasing all of the triggers, everything that it has stored, it has erased it off of that module. So now that it's cleared, we're going to go back and read the data and see what we have. So right now we're going to go into the history data, and you can see that there is no information. Honda software has no data for this vehicle, so it has nothing since I have erased it. So I'm going to say okay, that's fine. But now I'm going to simulate the alarm being triggered, and I'm going to go ahead and lock this vehicle. The alarm is set. It is ready to protect your vehicle. If there was a door that was open, the trunk lid was open, the hood was open, the alarm will go off and the horn will start honking. So now that it's locked and the vehicle believes that it needs to protect it from a theft, I'm going to go ahead and open the hood, and this is going to trigger that alarm. Okay, so you saw how it was triggered. That triggered is now going to be in the history. So right now we're going to go ahead and try to retrieve that information. So I'm doing this simulation to show you that you could see what triggered the alarm. So like that, you're kind of not chasing your tail and trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to go back into the history data, and it should have something there now. So you can see that we do have something detected, and again, it's a security hood switch. So you saw how it looks when there is no data, and then you saw what it looks like when there is information. You could pinpoint exactly what's going on. Now, I am going to say this, and this is something we just discovered recently. Depending on what scan tool you're using, you will be able to see this a little bit better than others. With the other scan tools that I have, 2 other ones, I wasn't able to see this information clearly, as clear as this. I did a test, and it was when I opened the hood, it showed me that the trunk was being triggered, not the hood. And it could send you in a loop. Just be aware of this situation, what could happen. For some reason, the Autel 808 is able to see this information and the other 2 are not. So I'll have a video on this later, but this is how you would diagnose what's going on. Okay, so it's the next day and we had to stop because it started to rain outside. Of course, we're in Florida and that's gonna happen. So we're resuming with the repair. Now I showed you that you're able to diagnose the vehicle and trying to figure out what's triggering the alarm. And by doing so, you're gonna be able to better diagnose and go to the problem right away and replace the part. But if you don't have a scan tool, you're gonna have a little bit of a harder time trying to figure out what's triggering it. You'll probably figure it out eventually, but it's gonna be a little bit harder. More than likely, what always goes out is from what I have read in the forums and what everyone complains about is this hood latch. So if you don't have a scan tool and you wanna take an educated guess, more than likely the good place to start is the hood latch, but it could be any of those switches. Like I showed you, there's a door switch, there's a sliding door switch, the back tailgate. There's so many different switches that could trigger this alarm. So it's up to you to kind of pinpoint and decide what you think it's gonna work and take a guess, which I personally don't like to do because you throw away money when you're taking a guess. But now you know how to diagnose it. Let's go ahead and replace it and see if we have fixed the problem. So this is a very simple replacement. It's a simple repair, but you do have to take all these clips off of here in the front. If they happen to break, I'll have a link in the description so you could pick up some more because that's what I had to do. And I am using one of these trim tools to be able to pull up the clips, and you just simply pull off on one end the center part. So you simply just pull up on the center part right here. You pull up on the center part right there, and the clip becomes loose and you're able to remove it. So it's very simple to do. You can see that mine are coming out very easily, and it's because they all have been replaced. These all broke on mine from doing repairs, getting to the radiator, getting to things, and they are brand new. That's why they're working so well. If yours don't work that well, you're gonna have to replace them if they're broken. So now that I have everything loose, you're also gonna have to have this scoop that goes into your intake loose. You're gonna have to pull up on this. And remember, you have one clip here and one clip here. Once that has been removed, you're able to move this guard out of the way. So we have this removed, and you can see all these holes. Those are all the clips where they're at. Now you can see the hood latch switch, and the whole mechanism is here and is very easy to get to. You're just gonna have three 10mm bolts. We're gonna loosen those up, but before we do that, we want to make a mark, and I'll show you what I mean. So in order for this hood latch to work, there's a piece that comes in here so it can lock into place. It needs to be aligned. And you can see I already have a mark here because I have removed this before, but I'm gonna go ahead and mark one corner like this, like so, and one in the top. And what that's doing is it's letting me know where to line up the new hinge, where I want it to sit, so that hood latch, when it closes, it lands right where it needs to land. So you can see I have made a mark in this corner, one in the top right here, and one in this corner. Like that, I can align it properly, so when that hood latch closes, and this is what it looks like up here, this bracket, when this bracket comes down, it's able to be aligned perfectly into that latch, and it closes properly. If it's off-centered, it's gonna bind up and your hood's not gonna close, or it's gonna be harder to lift up once it closes. So you want it to be aligned when you do this. This is probably the main thing that you have to worry about. Everything else is pretty straightforward. So then you're gonna just use a 10mm socket or ratchet wrench, whatever you have available. I'm using this electric ratchet, and I'm gonna go ahead and remove them. Okay, so you can see I have the hood latch loose now, and here is the switch. This is the switch that is faulty on this vehicle, and it might be faulty on yours. It's up to you to decide and test. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it from here. We have unclipped that, and now I can remove this part right here. So in order to remove this cable, you're going to have to pull up on this clip. Once that clip is loose, you could push in on this ball and push down, and it becomes free from this mechanism. All right, so this is a part of the video that I always say, compare the parts. Compare how they look and if they're gonna work. And the hardware part, you can see it looks very similar. It's very similar to the OEM one. This is an original hood latch. But you can see that the switch part is a little bit different here. This pigtail might plug in the same way, but you can see that this side has a cable, and this one, it has the pigtail built into the piece of plastic in the switch. And if you look on this side, okay, if you look right here, the switch is exposed here to all the elements. Compared to the OEM one, it's completely covered. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to tell you that if you do order one of these and you try it out for your vehicle, the chances are higher for it going bad later on, okay? Be aware of this if you purchase one of these. This is why aftermarket parts are not so desirable for vehicles. But I am gonna take the gamble, now that you understand that, if you take the risk in putting this and it breaks later on, now you know. I'm gonna go ahead and install it because one of these from the OEM are very expensive, and this one wasn't that bad. So I'm willing to take the risk in seeing if this one lasts. Maybe it'll last 2 or 3 years and I'll be fine with that. Or maybe it goes bad in 2 weeks. We'll find out. So now I'm gonna go ahead and position this cable back in, and I have the ball back in its place, and I put this plastic piece back where it goes in that little fork holder, whatever you would call that. So that's in place. Now I could open the hood from the inside, and now I'm gonna go ahead and route this cable down and just bolt it back on. It's that simple. From having the mark here and having a mark here, I was able to align it. You can see how off it could be. You could have it like this, okay, and it won't shot properly. You could have it down too low. So by marking it, it gives you a good idea in where it needs to go, and you could send it home correctly the first time. I wanted to make a statement so you guys understand, and when is it a okay time to use aftermarket parts. So if this was to fail, it wouldn't affect the engine in any type of mechanical way where it would destroy it or impair the performance of the engine. I do take the gamble in going with aftermarket part. When it comes to the water pump and timing belt, like I did to this van. And unfortunately, I wasn't making videos then, and I don't have a video for that. But I did the water pump and timing belt for this, and I went with the OEM, and it did cost a pretty penny. It was over $1,500 for everything, but I know that more than likely that pump and that timing belt and the tensioner, I did the tensioner as well, the chances are a lot less of it failing than an aftermarket part. Those are the only times that I will really go with aftermarket parts in the vehicle, depending on the age of the vehicle, the value, and what its function. Like you can see these headlights are pretty blurry and I keep buffing them out, and you could only do so much. More than likely I'll purchase aftermarket headlights for this van. It's just a 2012 vehicle, so it's kind of old. I don't think like I should put so much money, and you might be finding yourself in the same situation. But when it comes to internal parts or something critical in the engine, don't go with aftermarket, you know. Go with something a little bit more reliable. Go with something like an OEM, because it's well worth your money. If something was to happen to that water pump or the timing belt or the tension or any of that component in there, this engine would be toast. So you would be out of an engine, and it's not fun. In some situations I do take the gamble, and in others I don't. Just wanted to let you guys know. And since the plug has a longer wire, I am able to hold it out here so I could show you. It makes it a little bit more convenient. So it's plugged in, and now the switch is connected to this hood latch. Okay, so the switch is connected, the hood is closed. So now I should be able to activate the alarm when I lock the keys. There it goes. It works, so we know that that switch is working. So this is something you would do if you didn't have a scan tool, okay? And even if you had a scan tool, this is a good sign. Either way, if you had a scan tool or not, this is giving me an indication that this switch is working at the time. And like I said, since it's an aftermarket one, I don't know how long it's gonna last. So it'll maybe a couple of years, let's hope so. So gonna unlock it, and I'm gonna show you something else. I wanna share this with you just in case you run into this frustrating situation where your horn continues to go off no matter what, and you cannot pinpoint it, you can't figure out what it is. I'm going to show you how to deactivate the alarm system so it doesn't bug you anymore. You will still be able to lock your car, but the alarm won't go off if someone was to open the door. The security part, the security feature will be disabled if you was to do this. So right now I have the hood open, you can see. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the hood latch switch off. And like that, it's gonna interrupt that circuit, and the vehicle is gonna register it as the hood is open all the time. So you will not be able to arm the vehicle. So that very same pigtail I showed you to connect, we're gonna disconnect it. So remember, if you have the OEM latch, it's gonna look like this, and it's gonna be in the bottom. You're not gonna be able to move the wire to the top. You're gonna have to disconnect it from here. So now that that's disconnected, I have disarmed the alarm, and I'm gonna show you that you're no longer able to activate the security feature, but the doors will still close, and you're not going to be able to get into the vehicle. What this is going to do is you're going to be able to close the doors, you're going to be able to lock everything, and your horn won't go off like crazy. This is just in case you can't figure it out and you're just wanting to disable it. So now I'm going to go ahead and lock the car, and I'm pressing it twice, and if you have one of these, you know if you press the lock button twice, you should hear a horn or chirp coming from the vehicle, and there's nothing coming from the vehicle. And I have disabled this alarm system. Now that alarm system won't go off if it's triggered by a door opening or anything, because it's not armed. It's showing that there's an open circuit, like the hood is open, and it doesn't let you do it. The doors are still locked, and I'll show you that. So the doors are still locked, the sliding door is still locked, and you can't open the tailgate. So this is just a little tip that I'm giving you just in case you can't figure it out and the alarm is just driving you nuts. This is one way in how to disable it. So the other thing I have noticed with this hood latch, it is working, but you're gonna have to put a little bit more force when it's time to remove it from here. Once you pop the hood, you're gonna have to, on the lever, push. And you could hear it. That's like a popping sound. You're gonna have to put a little bit more force than the OEM one to be able to release it and open it. And with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. And now we will have our alarm system working again. And the alarm system works again. So now you have an idea in how to diagnose this problem. You also have a very good understanding in how to replace it. And you also have an understanding in how to disable the alarm if you just can't figure it out. And it's okay, because it was tricky for me. I had to hook up a different scan tool to even be able to see which one was the right switch that was going off. So you might run into a situation where you're going in a circle. So when it comes to the hood latch, you understand all the information I gave you. This is an aftermarket one. You saw the switch is different. But if you still would like to purchase one, the link will be down in the description, just in case you want to give it a shot and try it out and see if it works for you. So that's all the time we have for today. I hope this video was helpful. I would encourage you to subscribe, because I am working in multiple vehicles all the time. Not only am I doing DIY repairs like I just did right now, I am doing lectures on scan tools and how to use it. I am doing lectures on electrical circuits. I am also building vehicles in the channel. So there's always something new popping in, and you never really know what I'm going to do. So subscribe, follow me, and we'll see you in the next one.